perfectly jumbled up. You know, they're clumpy. So you can look for, you want to find, the best material is in that Yorktown layer. So you want to be able to identify the clumps of the Yorktown, even though there might be a little bit of Yorktown right next to it, Pungo, or some other section that's not quite as good. But there are ways to identify that Yorktown, like these nodules. Those are more often in Yorktown, but not exclusively. If you see coral, you're in the wrong section. So you don't want to see any coral. Okay, if you see this kind of clamshell right here, I'll show you another clamshell that you do want to see. But this kind that looks like a clamshell, you don't want to see that. Here's a little bit of whalebone. You do want to see that. That's what the big sharks fed on, whalebones. So if you see whalebone, that's a good sign. You can see there's sometimes they'll come together. There's a whalebone and there's a clamshell next to each other. But sometimes you find a big section where it's just Yorktown. And when you find that, that's a good place to hunt. See, this kind of clamshell is good. This is sort of a scallop shapes. It's not a very good example of it though. This is an example of the kind of shell that you want to find. It's in the Yorktown. It's a scallop-shaped shell. It's broken off, but if it were continued, it would come down here with a little tail at this end and a little tail at that end. So we'll find better examples, but you can see the ribs in it. And there are some kinds that are also good that have very fine ribs, just a different species. Like that. It's a vertebrate. But see, that piece comes right off, so you have the... Okay, so this whole area here, this is... this clump here is Yorktown, and you can tell that by, see, here's some whalebones here, and here, a lot of them. And then here's a pieces of that scallop-type shell. You can see the ribs, right? So that's good. And here's another of the other species that I was telling you about, the very fine ribs. That's also that scallop-type shell. And you can see the nodules here too, which is good to see. And look at this. This is not related to that, but here's a little vertebrae of a fish. Tiny little fish vertebrae right there. If you see shells like these, you're in an area where you're likely to find also shark's teeth. With the, see the scallop type shape to them. And this kind of shell is also of that shape, but it breaks more easily. So that's kind of surface. It's also a good thing to see.
If you want big teeth, you look in the Yorktown material, which is a very dark, greenish type sand like this. It's where you find your best levels of preservation, your biggest teeth. It's, say, about 5 million years old, according to some scientists.
You never know what you're going to find.
They gave us got a big
Uh-huh, here's a fishtail right here.
we could get somebody to trade for us.
That's a...
So you're looking for the reflection of the sun off the shiny surface?
Yeah, especially for teeth. And then sometimes it just, the way the shadows are for me, I like it kind of in front of me. If you're looking for teeth, you're looking for triangles. And this is a piece of what they call tube worm. And the worm builds himself a little shell and lives inside of it. And it can be sometimes big as your fist. This is a megalodon.
And how was it sitting when you found it?
It was buried except for just that much. And I just saw the green sticking out.
Cool.
That little thing with the one to it right there.
Oh my gosh! It's an anglerfish jaw. And there's a pufferfish mouth. The anglerfish jaw is right here. Whoops, I dropped the fish now. There you go. It's the teeth from the anglerfish. Absolutely outstanding. Yes. Now, I have some. You take it. You can tell these are anglerfish. You can see the little ridges here where they grow up, and they're hollow on the bottom. Might show a little better here. Ridges. It's quite a nice specimen, the teeth. This camera is the first to gaze upon this. I think it's gorgeous. It's the best tooth I've found all season.
So you were looking for something else and found that.
Cosmopolitus hastalis, the extinct great white. Well, those are the dragline buckets. They're sitting on a shelf about 40 feet underground. It's a Pleistocene age boulder bed, and they dig down between, well, they dig up everything and pile it. This is what we're digging in, everything above the 80-foot mark. Then from 80 feet to 120 feet is what the black piles on the right-hand side of the dragline bucket are. That's your phosphate material. And it will be pumped way back yonder to the plant site. See where that smoke is? It's 7 miles it'll be pumped to have the phosphate processed out of it.